So my name is Matthias Quackenbush. I'm a volunteer organizer here with 99 Rise. We're building a grassroots nonviolent movement to get big money out of politics. I just want to give a quick shout out to my brothers and sisters in Washington, D.C. this morning. 7 people standing up in the Supreme Court. That's right, disrupting the proceedings, demanding a voice for the people. That's what we gotta do. And that's what we're doing here today. We're here in solidarity with them. We're all here together to take our voice back and to take our power back. Get big money out of politics. So I thank you all for coming here.
What the hell are you talking about? This land is for who? For you? You?
Yeah, 1%.
Who are you? 1%?
You betcha.
Well, 99%.
You're just here to serve us.
Wait, 99% is more than 1%, right? Do the math, man. What's going on around here?
But it's an issue that I'd like to talk about, food justice. Yeah. Is that all right? Once again, I usually do this to music, but I'm just going to kind of, acapella this because I love it when you folks can hear, because I know some of y'all don't bump hip-hop on a regular basis. That's okay, I'm not mad at you folks. The industry doesn't really give you good choices or options, right? I'm here, though. I'm here to save the day. So, if you like, brother, something slow, maybe like...
There you go. Hey!
All right, that's good. I like that. All right, let's go. That's about the right tempo, too. Yeah, all right. Check it. A hand reaches out, asking for a bite to eat. You ever been feeling that pain while you're trying to sleep? The land is trying to grow, but there's something wrong. Land is harvesting more, but enough is gone to waste, fraud and abuse. The truth of the IMF, yo, you get a little bit of money just for trying death. Petro, agro, capitalistic, that seed will only grow if you got money to spritz it with ground up ready. Or ain't no seed sowing, so years later now we wonder where the bees going. GMO, we got some monocrop food system, dog, we dying just to get some nutrition. Look, corporations aim to make us think we need a store, when Mama Nature gives us all we ever want more. 1 billion people tonight who should be eating more, man. They just trying to feed the war, not the poor. We gotta plant some justice, grow some seeds, dig in the earth for our groceries. We gotta promote the culture for those in need, cause the world got some folks to feed. Sing it again, we gotta plant some justice, grow some seeds, dig in the earth for our groceries. We gotta promote this culture for those in need, cause the world's got folks to feed. Verse 2, yo, I'm walking through the streets, seeing all these vacant lots. Up in my head thinking we should scheme to make a plot. I grow a crop for the block, we'll be full soon. Now the little kids is doing good in the schoolroom. A hand reaches out, asking you to show him how he can touch the earth so that he can feed his people now. Take his hands out the cuffs, put him in the ground, steal him back from the man, get him back to his land. Man, we fighting it just for the space, right? To plant a seed so that we could get a safe bite. Food organically grown so it tastes right. Now food deserts growing faster than the race stripe. The lake level's getting lower than my waist height. World hunger's growing higher than a space flight. A revolution now growing in their face might be the thing to set the place right. For the light, we gotta plant some justice, grow some seeds, dig in the earth for our groceries. We gotta promote this culture for those in need, cause the world got folks to feed. Yeah, we gotta plant some justice, grow some seeds, legalize hemp, decriminalize weed. Gotta promote the culture for those in need, cause the world got some folks to feed.
U.S. PIRG, the Public Interest Research Group, and Common Cause. That's a quote from Huffington Post. A longtime California activist, he helped lay the groundwork for this growing movement of which we are all a part, to amend the Constitution to overturn the Citizens United decision. In 2012, Derek spurred California's Fair Political Practices Commission to investigate $11 million in undisclosed dark money that was funneled into the state through the political machinery of the billionaire Koch brothers. That case led to a multi-million-dollar settlement. Let's get a hand for that. All right, fair elections. All right, a real champion for getting money out of politics. Let's give me one more hand for Derek Crespin.
Thank you, Matthias. And thank you, San Francisco. Thank you, fellow patriots, for turning out today. It both warms my heart and inspires me to see that 5 years later there are still so many of us here to, not to celebrate, but to commemorate, to call attention to the great wrong that the Citizens United ruling was. Of course, you and I know that that was not the beginning of our problems. The real problem started 39 years ago with a different ruling called Buckley versus Vallejo. And it was in that ruling that the Supreme Court of the United States first told us that money is speech. When they look in the Bill of Rights in the First Amendment, they see the word money there. I don't. Anyone else see the word money there? Seems to me if money is speech, then speech is no longer free. It's for sale. And when speech is for sale, then we the people only get to hear from a fraction of the 1%. And we cannot govern ourselves when we cannot hear from the voices of the 99%. That's what's at stake. Now, in that infamous ruling, Buckley versus Vallejo, what the Supreme Court said, and I quote more or less, is it is wholly foreign to the First Amendment to limit the speech of one person in order to enhance the speech of others. I want to remind the Supreme Court of that. They say it's wholly foreign to limit the speech of one person in order to enhance the speech of others. Well, guess what they did this morning? They limited the speech of 7 patriots from 99 Rise, who walked into the floor of the United States Supreme Court and stood up and spoke for about 5 seconds each. They said money is not speech, and immediately John Roberts limited them. He sent the cops on them faster than you can shake a horse's tail, hauled them out of there, put them in jail for speaking. The Supreme Court limits the speech of ordinary Americans every day. And yet they won't limit the Koch brothers. They won't limit the billionaires. They can use their money to buy our elections, but they limit our voices. They limit our speech. This will not stand. This injustice will not stand. And we are rising up. California has been rising up for the past 5 years, and we're going to continue. It started with resolutions in cities like Richmond and San Francisco and all across the country. More than 50 cities and towns in California have passed resolutions condemning the Citizens United ruling. Soon after that, the state legislature condemned the Citizens United ruling and called upon Congress to pass a constitutional amendment to overturn it. But that wasn't enough. My friends and I at Common Cause said, let's ratchet this to a higher level. Let's not just have our government speak on our behalf. Let's let the voters speak. And so Helen Greco at Common Cause and I went to Richmond, California. And you'll hear from Mayor Mail McLaughlin in a minute. And we said, why don't you let the voters of Richmond speak out on this issue? And they said, okay. And they put Measure L on the ballot in Richmond, California. John Avalos, Supervisor John Avalos, and the other supervisors in San Francisco thought it was a good idea too. And they put Proposition G on the ballot here in San Francisco. They did the same thing in Los Angeles. And every time this has been on the ballot, voters by huge margins, I'm talking 3-1, 75% votes, demanding that Congress overturn the Citizens United ruling. Well, folks at 99 Rise thought that was a good idea. We had a big march for democracy from Los Angeles to Sacramento, demanding that the state legislature put this on the ballot. A huge coalition called Money Out, Voters In organized. And the state legislature listened to us because we will not be silenced. We will make our voices heard. And the state legislature passed something called Senate Bill 1272, calling for a statewide vote in California, demanding that Congress overturn the Citizens United ruling, demanding that we establish that corporations are not people, demanding that we clarify that money is not speech. And you know what happened? The courts didn't want to hear it. The courts tried to silence all of the voters of California, just like they silenced those 7 patriots in the Supreme Court chambers this morning, and they kicked Proposition 49 off our ballot. They would not let us speak. We will not be silenced. We are fighting this in the California Supreme Court right now. We'll be filing amicus briefs in about 10 days. We are citing plain language in the California Constitution, giving us as citizens the right to instruct our legislators, and it is crystal clear when you look at the history of the drafting of the California Constitution, this is exactly what they meant. So we'll be filing those briefs, but the Money Out Voters In Coalition is calling on every Californian to make their voice heard to the California Supreme Court, and this is not something that's ordinarily done, but this is not an ordinary fight. So every citizen can and should write a letter to the California Supreme Court letting them know that you want a chance to vote on this. And if you go to the website, Money Out Voters In, there's a sample of that letter. Go there today, download that, make your voice heard on this issue so that all of us can make our voice heard on this issue. We are not going away. We will not be silenced until we prevail. Thank you for coming here today, San Francisco.
Many very critical issues, as you well know, like gun violence, Wall Street crimes, livable wages, wars fought for oil, affordable health care for all, and climate chaos have not been properly addressed because of one singular overriding issue. I think you know what it is: money in politics. The general public, and that's where we need to help out, doesn't necessarily see the connection of these issues with money in politics.
Right, so I was talking to our next speaker off to the side, and I was telling her, Gail McLaughlin, former mayor of Richmond, I was telling her how every time I tell my friends, I explain to my friends who she is and what she's done, how she helped the people, how she's working to help the people of Richmond save their houses from foreclosure using the power of eminent domain, or how she's faced off against Chevron again and again. They're always so impressed. They're like, wow, that's badass. So I was really excited to see that we had her here today. She's definitely a hero. And apparently, she told me she's actually writing a book to help people in other communities like Richmond organize in the same way against corporate power. So we're going to spread the revolution. We're going to spread the grassroots power and take it back from the big money interests that have stolen our democracy and are ruling our communities right now. So I'm extremely honored to welcome Gail McLaughlin. Come on up.
Pleasure to be here, and I send greetings from the city across the bay, my city, the city of Richmond, where democracy still lives. And I just want to say that in this sea of darkness that has occurred throughout our nation, it is important to recognize the successes, like the success of our community of Richmond that resisted $3 million of Chevron's money this past election. And this didn't happen overnight. We have been working for 10 plus years in really building a progressive movement. And it's thanks to so many community leaders, many of who are here today. I know my husband, Paul, he had a dot. You were a great dot, Paul. Andre Soto, who you'll hear speaking soon. I know I saw Janet Johnson, who was like one of the key leaders of our campaign effort for 3 of our wonderful campaign candidates, myself, 2 others who ran without a penny of corporate money and won. So thank you, Janet Johnson. I think I saw David Solman here as well, who's another key component of our Richmond movement. So let me just tell you a little bit about how things started, and I'll keep this short. But Richmond has been ruled for 100+ years by this big corporation known as Chevron. And they have been, until recent years, been allowed to get away with murder. They polluted our community. They did not pay their fair share of taxes. They've had the most pollution in the whole state. They're the largest greenhouse gas emitter in all of California. They have had accidents and fires that have put our community at risk, and many of them have been harmed greatly, including the recent fire of 2012, where 15,000 of our community members went to local hospitals for respiratory impact. So we know that this particular corporation, this refinery in Richmond, this largest refinery in California, this harmful refinery, has been up to no good for a long time. And we decided, a handful of us in 2003 to come together and form an alliance. We called ourselves the Richmond Progressive Alliance. And we came, right, there's so many. There's RPA members here, of course. And we came from different party affiliations, Green Party, Progressive Democrats, Peace and Freedom Party members. And we came together because we shared values and we shared a vision for our community. And we said we can run candidates without corporate money, and we can win. And indeed we did, thanks to a community effort, going door to door, knocking on doors, going to community events, passing out literature, doing all the kinds of things on a grassroots level, forming these alliances with community groups. And that's what made the difference. So that's what caused us to win many elections, including the mayor's race for 2 terms, both my terms, 2006 and re-elected in 2010, running with no corporate money, thanks to our movement. And then again, and this was the culmination. In 2014, I couldn't run again as mayor because I termed out, so I ran for city council. And I ran with 2 other progressives, and we called ourselves Team Richmond. And Team Richmond defeated the $3 million of corporate money. And we also supported a couple other progressives, the mayoral candidate. We supported him, and another progressive candidate. And all of us won, and every single one of Chevron candidates lost. So it came, like I said, from a long time effort. It came by educating our community. It came by having elected officials in office, myself and others, who were not going to be bought off, and who were going to stand side by side with the community to make the kind of changes that Richmond needed. And we have made so many successes. We've reduced violence, reduced our crime dramatically. We're now a lighthouse for other urban communities that have a lot of street violence. We reduced our homicides 75% since 2007. We've done leading immigration rights impacts, including we have created a municipal ID, and we have stood against ICE raids, and we have made it clear that our police cannot cooperate with ICE. We have raised our minimum wage. We have had green businesses come with green job training through our employment and training. We have done so many things. We have held Chevron accountable to reduce their pollution. We have put restrictions on them through a permit that they needed. We have also forced them to come to the table and negotiate $114 million in additional taxes for our city coffers. So this is the kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff that you can do with elected officials that can't be bought and an organized community. This is what it takes. It takes that cohesiveness, people on the city council who stand for community and who don't stand for the corporations. Years ago, not that long ago, in the 1990s, Chevron actually had a desk in the city manager's office in Richmond. Now that's really a mingling of city government and corporations that's truly obscene. So we have really pushed back at Chevron. But we know it's clear that as much as we know that we are a bright light, and we want to shine that bright light and say, if it can be done in Richmond, California, it can be done anywhere. But we also know that we are not an island. We all must join together and defeat this horrible Citizens United ruling. And we are so proud that Richmond voters have become very sophisticated. They not only can see through Chevron's attacks on good candidates and defeat their, their $3 million campaign, which included billboards all over the city, billboards on the freeway, calling me, all kinds of deceitful names and presenting me in a deceitful way. And they saw through all that. All the mailers, all the TV ads, all the radio ads, all the robocalls, pardon? They everything that they have done, there's so much. And our community made it clear that we can see through deceit. And we also understand about Citizens United because our community voted to tell our representatives in Congress 75% of the voters of Richmond voted to have Citizens United overturned. So we are clear. So we're so clear that a change must come. So today we mourn the Citizens United ruling. We mourn democracy, but we see a bright light coming from across the bay, and we see a bright light in each of you. Because each of you internally, your hearts, your minds, each of us has that light to share and bring about change in this country, bring about the kind of democracy that we all deserve, something that is even brighter and better and more exciting than even the democracy that our forefathers and foremothers gave us. Because now we wanted to extend to everyone. Every child that is born should know that they are going to be born into a democracy where their voice is heard, where they develop into the kind of citizen that can play a role in defining their own destiny and defining the kind of society we all deserve to live in. So we're going to build that society. We're going to build that democracy. And someday we're going to be here in San Francisco, making it clear that we are mourning. We are not mourning democracy, but we are celebrating the burial ground of the Citizens United ruling. So thank you all for having me here, and let's keep this movement going.
Not only is he a talented musician, he was also central to the progressive revolution that Gail Schmidt was talking about in Richmond. Sorry. He also works as an organizer for the Richmond area of Communities for a Better Environment and hosts the Public Affairs program on KPFA each Thursday at 3:30 p.m. So let's welcome Andre Soto, guys. Andre Soto.
That's my homies over there. Yeah. All right, thank you everybody, and thank you so much for coming out here for the anniversary of this ignominious event. And I say that quite directly because we're just talking over here about education. And I came up through public schools. I went to school in San Pablo, California, graduated from Richmond High School, where our mascot is the Oilers. Oh, yeah. And so, with that kind of framework that is given to our children, it made me ultimately come to think about American history, the way it was taught, and why Citizens United, which is perfect Orwellian newspeak, really is not a surprise. It's what we should expect. The United States Constitution, as I got through school and I ended up going to Berkeley and studied political science, and there were people there in the constitutional law classes who looked to the Constitution as if it were a holy document, and that there's people involved in the entire judiciary and in the legal system who look to the Constitution as a holy document. It's our civil religion. And that's why people, get upset, when you burn the flag and other expressions of free speech that we so-called have. And what we've come to learn is that when we look at the history of the United States and the Constitution, it was designed by oligarchs for oligarchs. And that's something we have to keep on teaching our children and our grandchildren. It's a realization that the Constitution is not a holy document. It's an agreement, it's a contract that was drawn up to ensure that slavery existed. It was designed to ensure that genocide could flourish. It was designed to ensure that over half the population wouldn't be able to vote, the women. So that's the U.S. Constitution. And when we think about institutions such as the U.S. Senate and why we can't really get anything done, it was put there. Looking back to the Roman Republic, we don't have a democracy, we have a federal republic. We don't elect the president. We vote for Congress members who appoint electors who then vote for the president. All these things are layers to keep a lid on popular foment, because they knew people were going to get screwed and they're going to get pissed off and they're going to come out in the streets and do things. Yeah. That's why we're here today. We're pissed off. We're doing something about it. And so when we have that kind of history, look at the U.S. Senate. Why should a state like Vermont, which has about the same amount of people as the city of Oakland, or South Dakota, which has less people than the city of Oakland, have 2 senators just like California that has 38 million people? What's democratic about that? Nothing. So that's the structure that we're functioning within. So until such time as we abolish the Constitution and rewrite the Constitution, I guess you can work to evolve the Constitution. They banned alcohol and then they got rid of that ban. So all things are possible. We can't even get the Equal Rights Amendment passed. I mean, that's the America that we're living in. And so that's why in Richmond, our struggle has been at the grassroots, in our community. We may not be able to change Washington, but we can change City Hall, because one of the things in guerrilla warfare is that when you're dealing with a big, powerful entity, you have to understand their vulnerability is their largeness. And so they get lazy and get complacent. They hired as many volunteers, paid volunteers, as we had unpaid volunteers in the election. But guess who won? We won. And then, you know, when you look at the spending of Chevron in these elections, every election they spent more and more and more. But finally, they hit a tipping point. And the fact that they spent so much money that they filled up people's mailboxes so much with the political propaganda that was full of lies, that's when everybody, the people who sit on the fence, the people who take money for their nonprofit corporation from Chevron, these people then finally woke up and said, enough is enough. We're not going to vote for the Chevron candidates. We're going to vote RPA, and we're going to change our city. So thank you, everybody. You can do it too.